Our deliveries app is pretty much ready, at least the deliveries app that is oriented to the end user. We should now create the deliveries app for the delivery person, the app from where the delivery person is going to be able to update the status from these deliveries, providing that they are picking up the package and delivering it. And for this, we do not have to create another project. In fact, since most of the functionality that we're going to be using is already inside of the PCL, it would not be ideal for us to create a new project. What we have to do is create new projects, new Android and iOS projects inside of the solution that we already have. So what we have to do then is right-click on the solution, select Add, and select New Project. In here, you may think that you want to add a new cross-platform Xamarin app, but this would actually create a new portable class library. What we really want to do is first add a new blank Android application, a new blank Android project, which of course needs a name. In this case, I will just call this delivery person app.android, which is going to identify this particular project as the Android version of the delivery person's application. And I'm going to click on OK. And it's going to be added to the project, just like any other project. And we're going to have a main activity, and we're going to have a default main layout. We're going to head back here in just a minute. Let me just for now add the iOS application as well. So I'm going to right click on the solution, select Add, select New Project, and this time I am going to select iOS. Now inside of iOS I am going to have many options. The one that I want to select is Universal. And in this case I want to create a single view application. So the single view app, iOS, is the one that we want to create. And it's going to be universal, meaning it's going to run on both Android and iPad. Again, the name is going to be Delivery Person App. Only in this case, it's going to be .ios. And it is also going to be added along with a view controller and a default view inside of the main.storyboard file. Now, before continuing into adding the activities and the layouts and the view controllers and the views inside of the storyboard for each of these projects, first we have to reference the portable class library that we have in the solution. So all of the functionality that we already have there can be shared to these two new projects. So inside of the new Android project, I am going to right click on References, select Add Reference, and I'm going to be selecting a reference from the current solution. In this case, it's going to be the Deliveries app, which is the portable class library. I'm going to click on OK, and we will now be able to use everything that is inside of the Deliveries app portable class library. And the same thing for iOS, where I have to add that same reference so I can start using the code that is defined inside of that project. Now, we can go ahead and define all of the activities and layouts on this new Android project that we will need. For this in particular, we already have one element inside of the layout and one activity, which again can represent the activity for where the user is going to log in. The next layout that we will need is the one for the user to register. So I am going to create that layout. Remember that when creating a new layout, you can filter all of the templates to show only Android templates and select Android layout. This one, for example, is going to be register. For this new register layout, I'll also need an activity. So I will add a new activity by right-clicking on the project itself, selecting new item, filtering by Android templates, and selecting activity. This one is going to be called register activity. To which, right from the beginning, I'm going to set the content view. So I'm going to call the setContentView method, and I am going to pass resource.layout.register, which is the new resource that I have just created. Along with this register layout and register activity, we will also need a pickup layout, which is going to show a map eventually that will display the user, in this case a delivery person, the origin of a certain package that they are going to be able to select from a list. This is of course going to need its own activity, where I have already set that pickup resource as a content view for the activity. We will also need a deliver layout, which again is going to display only a map, in this case with the destination of a certain package. This one is also going to have its activity, which already has the content as well. And then we're going to need 3 fragments that in fact are going to be list fragments, which means that they are only going to be displaying a list view, and because they are already inheriting from list fragment, do not need a layout, are already conformed by an entire list. We're going to need a delivering fragment, which is going to list deliveries being delivered by the current user, a waiting fragment, which is going to display deliveries that do not have a delivery person assigned yet, which are still waiting, which have a status of 0, and a delivered fragment with a list of deliveries that have been delivered by the current user. Now currently we are inheriting from list fragment, which is not the fragment that we used. First we have to add some resources to this project so we can use the correct list fragment, which comes from a different namespace that previously we had to define in its entirety. But these are the main elements that we need. We need these 3 fragments, which are eventually going to be part of the last item, which is a tabs layout, which also has its activity that will eventually inherit from fragment activity. Currently we do not have the necessary namespace. And we will also have 2 detail views, which are both going to display a map, one with the destination for a package and the other with the origin for a package, as well as that register view that we have also created. So this is the main structure for the Android project. Let's now create the main structure for the iOS project as well. In here, remember that the first thing that we need is a navigation controller, which will handle the entire navigation inside of the application. Now this is creating a table view controller at the default. We don't need it. We're just going to relocate this and set this navigation controller to be the first view controller to be displayed, and set the relationship from that navigation controller as root to this view controller. From that view controller, we will also be navigating to another view controller for the register. We have to add a tab view controller. This tab view controller is going to have 3 tabs, so we will need 3 view controllers, each of which is going to be a table view, because the 3 tabs are going to be displaying lists. From 2 of them, we will be able to navigate to a detail view. One of them is the pickup view controller, and one of them is going to be the deliver view controller. Remember to set the relationship between the tab bar controller and its tabs to be tab. So I am going to establish that relationship to the 3 table views. And of course, don't forget to set a class for each and every one of these view controllers. For example, this in here is going to be the register view controller. As I type enter, that is created. We will also need a tab bar controller file so we can hide the back button eventually. 1 table view controller for each one of these table views. So we will have a delivering table view controller, a waiting table view controller, and a delivered table view controller, as well as to the deliver view controller and the pickup view controller. And that's it. We now already have all of the view controllers and the views for our iOS application as well. Now in the next lecture, we are of course going to add all of the elements inside of the designs, inside of the layouts, and start by implementing the navigation, both from one activity to another, as well as tab navigation, which is going to require special attention on Android. On iOS, that's pretty much done. And of course, establish that navigation between the view controllers on iOS.